Alright, very welcome everybody and welcome to my channel. My name is Nicholas, I'm a real-life pilot, and in this video today I will try to demonstrate how a real-life startup and taxi operation of a single-engine piston aircraft would be. Specifically the Cessna 172, and I may also try to give you a couple of technical aspects of the operation along the way. For this demonstration I'll be using the X-Plane 11, of course, and this magnificent, truly beautiful Cessna model created by Carenado, the Charlie 172 November variant. Actually, it happens that this is the exact same model of aircraft that we use in the operator that I work for in real life, and it's important to mention that this is a model that uses the old school carburetor feeding system for the engine. So no any injection system fitted, and risk of carburetor icing comes to place. And for that reason we will also be reviewing the use of carb heat control as well. So let's start. We are inside of the aircraft's cockpit and we assume that all interior and exterior checklists have been performed, walk around checks, weather briefings, flight planning, submission of relevant flight plans, NOTAMs, everything. So we are ready to proceed with the before starting engine checklist. So for the checklist we have the following items: pre-flight inspection completed, passenger briefing completed, charts available, seats adjusted and locked. Actually what we needed to check here is that the seats of the pilot in command and the co-pilot are secured in their tracks. There is no any unlocked seat, so there wouldn't be any abrupt movement of the seat back and forth in case of any sudden acceleration or deceleration. Subsequently we check belts, solder harnesses, that we are secure on our seats. Thereafter we check radios, electrical equipment, avionics, master switch off. So we check that everything, all electrical equipment is off, light switches including the avionics power. So then we check alternate static source valve closed. What is that? It's this small button here. We need to make sure that it's pushed fully forward. What that does is actually a fail-safe in case that our main static source port is blocked or clogged by ice or otherwise obstructed, which is this item over here. It's this hole on the port side of the fuselage. You can see there's a small hole. This small hole connects ambient air directly to our altimeter. So if this gets clogged, the altimeter will freeze into position and will not indicate our real altitude, pressure altitude. So if this happens, we activate the alternate static source valve, we pull it fully backwards, and what this does is it diverts the port that the altimeter uses, and instead of using outside air, it starts using the air inside the aircraft's cockpit, which actually is not very accurate because the air inside the cockpit is warmer, so it's less dense, and subsequently the altimeter will show a false higher altitude, the pressure altitude than what the aircraft would be really flying at. But it's much better than not have any altimeter reading at all. So make sure for the before start engine checklist that this is closed. Then we check circuit breakers, that everything is in place. There's no any popped circuit breaker. We check brakes, that they actually you cannot see them moving right now, but we check in the real aircraft, we check that there is tension when you press on the actual brakes, that there is tension. We check magnetic compass, that there are no any fluids missing, that the heading of the compass is more or less correct, which for this particular airport it is. This is the actual airport from which we operate, so I'm familiar with the orientation of this airport. And we are ready to proceed to the starting engine checklist. So starting engine checklist: brakes hold. We step on the brakes, and we maintain brakes for the whole checklist. Fuel selector valve, both. What this does is it actually selects the valve to both, so the engine is fed by both fuel tanks simultaneously, the port side and the starboard side. Mixture full reach. So we advance the mixture throttle to full reach. Throttle half-inch open. We crank the throttle to half-inch open. Carburetor heat off. This lever, vernier type lever right here. We press it fully forward, which means it's in the closed position. We don't want to suck up any debris or any foreign object into the engine induction system, so we maintain this at closed position for any kind of ground operation of the aircraft. Primer, verify locked. Primer is this little manual pump over here. What this does is in certain conditions where the aircraft has been idling, actually not operating for a long time, or the weather conditions are such that the engine needs some help to start, to be primed with some fuel before starting the engine. We use this. There's a special operation by which we pump some fuel inside the engine. But for normal operations, this must not be used, and actually it must be verified that it's in the locked position, because if this lever inadvertently gets pressed back while starting the engine may lose fuel supply and may stall. So this is important that it remains. We verify that it remains in the locked position. So next item is battery master switch on. Okay, and we can hear that the gyros start spooling up. Actually, in this particular model, I should mention that it is only the turn coordinator that uses the electric rotors for the gyros. The attitude indicator and the direction indicator are fed by the vacuum system. So the only instrument that draws power from the basic 6 is the turn coordinator. Anti-collision light on. Check. So propeller area lock shout clear. At this point, we open the window, we shout clear or prop clear, so that everybody who is in the vicinity of the aircraft is immediately made aware that the engine is about to start. Ignition switch start. We set it to both after the engine starts, and we immediately set power setting to 1000 RPM. The reason for that is that actually the idle for this engine is about 700 RPM, but this would cause severe fouling to the spark plugs, and it would eventually degrade the operation of the engine, may even cause worse problems like engine failure. So under no circumstances during ground operations do we let the RPM drop below 1000 RPM. Check oil pressure check rising within at least 30 seconds. You can see here the oil pressure gauge is the indicator is already within acceptable limits in the green area. During summer season, during hot temperatures, the oil pressure may have some lag before it reaches the acceptable range. So we are within acceptable limit right here, so we're good to proceed. Alternator master switch on. Check ammeter for charging. We just saw that the ammeter here, you see, it was minus, was below 0. So at this position it indicates that the battery is discharging. By switching the alternator to on, you see the ammeter, it tends to 0. That means, and a little on the plus side, that means that the engine is actually charging the battery right now. In case that wouldn't respond, for example, if we turn the switch to on and the ammeter wouldn't respond, that would mean that the alternator is not working for various reasons. Maybe the alternator belt was broken or misplaced, or the voltage regulator had a problem, or something is really going wrong with the electrical system of the aircraft, and we should discontinue the flight. So in this case it's within normal limits, so we're good to proceed. High-low voltage light off. Actually, this indication is missing from this model. There should be a light somewhere here, but we would read voltage low. In the case of battery discharging, that light would be on. Immediately upon turning the alternator to on, that would turn off. And actually this checklist item draws your attention to check that the low voltage light is actually off, and in this way verify that the battery is in the charging condition and that the alternator is working as intended. So this concludes the starting engine procedure checklist, and now we will proceed to the before taxi checklist. So number 1 item, flaps retract, check visually. So we check the flap retraction lever and we check visually that both flaps are in the retracted position. Radios on and set volume and squelch. We set our first of all, we switch avionic master switch to on. We set our radios. I won't be dealing with radio work on this video, it's outside the scope of this video. Let's assume that you have set all your radios correctly, transported to code 7000 for VFR flights within the European region, and that you have received all the necessary clearances from the ATC in question. So we're good to proceed with the next item, which is position lights on as required, sunset to sunrise, or during low visibility or IFR flight. In our case, we are on VFR flight. The weather is okay, so during daytime, so there is no any need to set any position lights. Altimeter will be set actually as soon as we request taxi clearance from the ATC. Upon giving us the instructions, the taxi instructions, the ATC will also verify to us the QNH. Let's assume that we have set the proper QNH, which should be 29.902. So next checklist, taxi. Taxi clearance obtained, parking brake released. We check that the parking brake is released. Brakes test. I will show how we actually test the brakes in our case. We release the brakes, let the aircraft roll a few feet, power to idle, brakes, throttle immediately to 1000 RPM. This is the way how we actually check the brakes. Flight controls, hold for wind direction. Actually there is no any wind, so there is no any need to apply any kind of flight control input. Flight instruments, check for operation. This item concludes the taxi checklist, and we will perform this last item while we are rolling to the active runway. So Let's assume that we have been assigned runway 21 for this particular airport as our departure runway, and we're giving clearance to taxi. So I will show you how we will check the flight instruments. Clear left, clear right. Okay, smoothly. Don't allow the RPM to drop below 1000. Follow the taxi line. Okay, and the straight taxiway, it's a good opportunity to check the instruments. So what we do is we perform a smooth right turn. We check turn coordinator is working as intended, direction indicator as intended. Clear right, clear left, and we slowly taxi to our holding position. Alright, so at this point we have completed the first part of the operation. For those who were patient enough to stay with me up to this point, I'm impressed. Many thanks. I really appreciate, and feel free to join me on the next video where I will continue on with the takeoff procedure and basic straight and level flight at a selected altitude. For anyone who is interested to obtain the real-life operation checklist and flight operation manual for this specific aircraft, please do send me a message and I'll be happy to provide you with a copy. So that's it. Many thanks and fly safe.